"You're being demoted. Pack up and leave this place right now." The one yelling at me was my boss. I was unjustly blamed and relegated to work in a factory. One day, leading a dull life without any excitement, something big happened. My name is Jason. I used to work as a businessman in a big company in New York. However, there was a grave error in our department, causing significant losses to a client. It was my boss's fault. I wasn't involved in that deal at all, yet my name was clearly written in the disciplinary report. Of course, I protested. But nobody listened to someone at my level. In the end, despite my objections, I was forcibly relegated to work in the factory. At least I wasn't fired, but I couldn't accept it. Plus, it was in a rather rural area, and I had no experience in factory work, so I was always dragging the team down. The silver lining: I received a generous work allowance, and there was company housing, so my pay actually went up. But the quality of my life went down. No grocery stores nearby, so I depended on online shopping. Thanks to modern convenience, there's a system to leave packages even if you're not home. Though the apartment is old and lacks a concierge, they simply leave packages at the door, which is quite helpful. Basically, I hardly ever go out. All I do is commute between the factory and the apartment. And since the company purchased the entire old complex, only employees live here. In other words, no new experiences, no fun, just the same routine day in and day out. Honestly, it's so dull. Work isn't fun, and I've got no zest for life. It's as if the world has turned gray. I can hardly feel joy or excitement anymore. I thought I might go crazy if things continued this way, so I ordered a puzzle for some entertainment. A fairly large one with 1,200 pieces. I've always loved puzzles, and it's a nice activity to do alone. The next day, a package was propped up against the wall outside my apartment. We don't have package lockers, so parcels are often just left near the entrance. This time, since the box was long and slender, they probably leaned it against the wall to avoid blocking the walkway. I'm so grateful for quick deliveries these days. Or so, I thought. Whoa, what came out of the box was a maid outfit. The kind you'd see in cartoons, a black dress with a white apron and riffles. Hey, hold on, what is this? I don't remember ordering this. Thinking the store sent the wrong item, I rushed to check the shipment status on the website I'd ordered from. Turns out, my order was still in transit. Huh, so this package is. In a state of panic, I checked the box, and it's addressed to my neighbor. The package was a rectangular thin box with the recipient's name written on the top. They probably placed the side with the address facing the wall to protect the privacy of the information. I was tired and reflexively thought it was mine without really checking. The address is for next door, and the package was between my place and the neighbor's. Why would they put it in such a confusing spot? I thought in frustration, but I was also to blame for not checking properly. I recall the neighbor's name being Mandy, a completely normal woman. When we'd bump into each other, like during morning trash runs or when leaving for work, she'd always give a polite greeting. Her greetings were not overly cheerful, but more on the modest side. Even though her job at the factory was messy, her work clothes were relatively clean. I never worked directly with her in the vast plant, but I've heard she's diligent. She has this image of being rather refined, so why on earth would she buy such a niche outfit? What could she possibly use it for? For a split second, wild thoughts raced through my mind, and I quickly shook my head. This is no time for fantasies. I accidentally opened my neighbor's package. I have to apologize. I neatly folded the maid outfit, put it back in the box, and immediately left my apartment. Turning right after exiting my apartment, there's Mandy's door. Her apartment lights were on. She probably just got home a bit later than I did. I took a deep breath and rang her doorbell. "Hey there." As soon as I called out, Mandy appeared, but instead of looking at her, my eyes were instantly drawn to what was behind her. I was taken aback by the state of her room. Fabric was scattered everywhere, and there were several rolls that looked as thick as rolls of toilet paper. Moreover, in the narrow hallway, there were several mannequins. It honestly looked like a storage room. Is anything strange?" Seeing my astonishment, Mandy tilted her head. With her long hair and round face, she looked rather young. "I bet you would look adorable in that maid outfit." Lost in those thoughts, I quickly bowed my head. "I'm so sorry. I mistakenly opened your package thinking it was mine." Saying that, I handed her a thin rectangular cardboard box. Relief washed over Mandy's face. "Oh, thank goodness. I was getting worried because it hadn't arrived. I'm glad the sample made it." Sample. I was caught off guard by the word and involuntarily tilted my head. Mandy quickly glanced down the hallway. "I do costume design as a side job. I got an order for a maid outfit, so I ordered a ready-made one for reference." You were surprised because it was a maid dress inside, weren't you?" Mandy laughed heartily, just like a child. It wasn't a bashful laugh. It seemed as if she was teasingly enjoying someone's reaction. With her youthful appearance, it looked incredibly adorable. At that moment, I fell for her at first sight. Who would have thought such a cute girl lived right next door in the company apartments? Until now, we'd only exchanged passing greetings. Isn't this a golden opportunity for me? My monotonous days might just change, even if just a bit, right at this moment. That's how starved I was for human connection. Being alone is indeed lonely. I'd love to get to know her more personally. Since we usually don't talk, I desperately wanted to create an opportunity to continue our conversation. Without realizing, I blurted out. "I was surprised, but I thought for a moment that it'd suit someone as cute as you, Mandy." "Really?" she exclaimed. "Also, having a side job like that is impressive. If you're designing costumes, it means you're making clothes, right? You must be really skilled with your hands. I'm quite envious." The ultimate strategy, showering with compliments. I once heard that ladies have a soft spot for that kind of thing. But honestly, if a near stranger told me that a maid outfit would suit me, I'd probably be creeped out. Yet, Mandy seemed pleased and laughed. "I've always been handy since I was young, you know, and our workplace allows side job, right? Initially, it was just a hobby, but I got really into it." Seeing her talk so enthusiastically made me get carried away too. Factory work is physically demanding. It's truly impressive. As for me, I just shuttle between the factory and my room and often find myself with too much free time. "You have free time?" she exclaimed. Mandy seemed particularly interested in that detail. After learning that I have a lot of free time, Mandy hesitated a bit before saying, "Well, if you're available, I have a favor to ask." "A favor? I'm sorry if this is a bit odd, but would you mind being a model for me?" "What?" I was taken aback, but her request was to help with the final adjustments of the clothes she made. Currently, Mandy accepts costume orders over the internet and phone. Her clients are mainly budding pop stars or freelance artists, mostly women. However, she mentioned that she's been getting more male clients recently. Clothing is ultimately meant to be worn by people. For women's attire, I personally try them on for a final check, but for men's, I can't adjust them properly on myself. I used to manage with a mannequin, but it never felt quite right. Mandy told me this with a serious look on her face. That look, it was the gaze of a professional. Perhaps because of that, her earlier playful demeanor was gone, and she gave me a deep bow. "I promise to compensate you properly, and I won't ask for too much. Just spare me a little of your free time." "Well, if I can be useful, sure." Without thinking too deeply, I found myself nodding in response to her intensity. Having a connection with a woman I've taken a shine to. This felt like a dream come true. At least, that's what I thought. Jason, please do raise your arm a bit higher. Like this. Hold that pose, please. The job I took on was tougher than I'd imagined. From that day on, a peculiar routine began between Mandy and me. Every time we finished our respective jobs, we'd meet in Mandy's room, where I'd try on the outfits she crafted and strike various poses. At first, it was something like a tuxedo, I think. I'd often wear suit-like attires and long, flashy coats. Mandy would guide me into numerous poses to ensure the clothing looked impeccable from every angle. If there was any adjustment needed, Mandy would take care of it, then I'd try it on again. This cycle seemed endless, and it was pretty demanding. Lately, I even had to wear things like a Japanese kimono or a ballet costume. It was rather embarrassing. I mean, a grown man wearing a ballet outfit with a swan motif, what's that about? However, even with these outlandish outfits, Mandy was sincerely dedicated to her work. Seeing that, I just couldn't bring myself to laugh. Watching her diligence and integrity, I couldn't help but respect and want to support her. And there was a silver lining to all the hard work. That was getting to taste Mandy's homemade dishes. You see, by the time we wrapped up our trials, it was usually quite late. So, to show her appreciation, Mandy would always cook something for me. Mind you, her place was cluttered with sewing machines and threads, leaving just enough space for someone to dine. It wasn't the ideal ambience, surrounded by fabrics and mannequins, but having a home-cooked meal always felt special, and it genuinely made me happy. Plus, Mandy's cooking skills were top-notch. After growing tired of eating the same old fast food, Mandy's meals brought back the joy of dining. This is so good. I'm so lucky to eat this every day. Oh, Jason, you sure have a way with words. Saying that, Mandy's cheeks turned rosy with joy. How utterly adorable she looked. The stark contrast between this and her focused face when she was making costumes was striking. I found myself falling deeper for Mandy. Perhaps because I was so smitten, I'd do anything she asked, and I loved bringing her treats I'd order online. She'd light up every time. She seemed to have a sweet tooth, and watching her savor sweets was like watching a child. She was probably the cutest thing in the world. So, eventually, I started bringing her more and more premium sweets. If it meant seeing her happy, it was worth it. After all, thanks to Mandy, I felt truly happy. She pulled me out of a monotonous life, where my days consisted of just going back and forth between the factory and my room. She brought color and joy into my life with her delightful company and delicious food. She was, in every sense, an angel. I genuinely hoped that these blissful days would continue forever. But our idyllic days together, they didn't last. What did you just say? I'm thinking of quitting my job at the factory. That day, Mandy told me she had something important to discuss, so as usual, I went over to her apartment. However, what she shared was that she's quitting her job to start her own business. We've been living this way for a year. The factory job pays well, so I'm sure she won't struggle to raise funds. Plus, with her costume-making side job, she has numerous clients, and I know she's busy every day. Honestly, it's not surprising news, but this is company housing. This means if she leaves her job, she'd have to move out. If that happens, our current way of life will come to an end. I've saved up enough money, and I've secured a workspace. So, from next month, I plan to solely focus on costume making. And well, Jason, would you like to work with me? Wait, what? I'm actually starting a company that specializes in costume production. But I understand you have your own commitments and the pay might be significantly less than what you're making at the factory. So, I won't push you into it. Mandy smiled, but there was a shade of sadness in her eyes. To be honest, Given our circumstances, it was hard for me to just blurt out that I'd quit my job to join her. So many thoughts raced through my mind, wondering what the best course of action would be. But, in the very next moment, a particular thought crossed my mind. I imagined someone else taking over my role of trying on the costumes that she made. She mentioned starting her own business. So, she's planning on hiring employees. The thought of someone else wearing her costumes and modeling in my place, I really didn't like that idea at all. Forget the money and lifestyle. I strongly felt that I wanted to be there for Mandy. Can I be honest with you? Sure, please go on. I've got feelings for you, Mandy. What? My unexpected confession left Mandy in shock, her voice sounding almost comically surprised. I felt embarrassed and found it hard to look her in the eyes. Initially, I just wanted something in common with you. There was a part of me that helped you with ulterior motives, but seeing how dedicated and serious you are about your work, I've come to truly admire that. Given all this, would you really consider hiring someone with conflicted feelings like me by your side? I want to be there for you, Mandy, but I don't want to get in your way. This was my way of showing genuine intentions. Of course, I believe I could have hidden my conflicted feelings and continued being around her. But that would feel like I was deceiving her, especially since Mandy seemed so dedicated to her work. That's why I decided to be honest and let Mandy decide. I was sure she'd despise me for it, but I felt it was dishonest to continue interacting with her without revealing my true feelings. Sure enough, Mandy became silent. I got scared and hesitantly looked her way. I wondered what kind of expression she had. Just when I thought she'd look down on me. To my surprise, Mandy was crying, her face all flushed. I'm so happy, I'm glad, all my efforts were worth it. Mandy started crying like a child, which sent me into a panic. It seems that Mandy had feelings for me too. Jason, you've always been so kind and supportive. I've always dreamed of becoming your wife, but all I'm good at is sewing. I'm not great at keeping things tidy, and I wondered what to do. Then I heard that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So, I've been working hard to improve my cooking skills ever since. Turns out, just like me, Mandy had always been getting her meals from convenience stores or online delivery. But she wanted to catch my attention, so she secretly started practicing cooking. Come to think of it, I remember talking about things like whether I prefer my fried eggs over hard or runny. Without me knowing, she'd been probing my food preferences. No wonder everything she made tasted just right. And to think, I had no idea she was putting in all that effort. Given the serious look on Mandy's face whenever I saw her, I had assumed her kindness towards me was just a way of saying thanks for helping her with work, but I was mistaken. Understanding that she had been secretly working hard to get my attention made me feel an immense affection for her. Looks like we were both smitten. Yes, it seems so. I hope we'll continue to get along from now on. We realized our feelings were mutual and promised to stay together. From then on, our lives took a drastic turn. Mandy and I left the factory and started our own costume production company. We have decided I would be the head of our company. Mandy wanted to focus solely on costume design, so she entrusted the business operations to me. Well, I had worked as a salesperson at the main office, so I was good with numbers, and Mandy wasn't too keen on handling the business side of things, so maybe it worked out for the best. But let's be real, I had no experience in this field, nor had I ever studied business management. So, in truth, we didn't establish the company right after quitting the factory. Though Mandy had some business knowledge, she really wanted to focus on fashion. On the other hand, I didn't have much to contribute in terms of fashion expertise. So, for a while, Mandy worked as a sole proprietor, until I took charge of managing the company. During this period, I reached out to old college friends from the business school and begged for their help. Of course, I could have studied on my own, but insights from those with hands-on experience are invaluable. It was, in a way, the first time in my life I had ever truly asked for help, given my previous tendency to just go with the flow. It sure surprised my friends. They were all like, "I can't believe that Jason, of all people, is studying so hard." But maybe my desperation showed, because they introduced me to all sorts of people. Folks who'd succeeded with online shopping, experts in law, and even those who had a knack for advertising on social media platforms. Thanks to them, I learned a lot and was able to put that knowledge to use. When it came to the point of starting the company, my friends were right there to help. Whenever I faced a problem or didn't understand something, they'd teach me. To be honest, I was always on the receiving end of their help. In return, I started introducing them to other connections, and that's how my network expanded. Of course, things didn't go smoothly right from the start, but with the support of many, the company finally got on track. We hired employees, and though still a small-scale firm, it grew decently in about 3 years. Yet, the role model for Mandy's designs was still me, and that fundamental aspect hasn't changed. I'm determined to protect this life and keep it this way. That's the spirit I kept as I managed the company. Once the business settled into a groove, Mandy and I tied the knot. It might have been a bit cliché, but I gave her a ring and said, "I love you." Then, Mandy responded with the brightest smile, putting on the ring and saying, "Me too." Our wedding is still a bit down the road, and currently, Mandy is designing her own wedding dress. I can't wait to see what she looks like in her wedding dress. Accidentally opening that box truly changed my life. From a guy who just went with the flow, I began challenging myself for the one I love, and now I'm the CEO. Some folks around me worried I might be pushing myself too hard, but right now, I'm having a blast. I used to live day by day with no real purpose, but now, I find motivation in doing things for the one I cherish. That, to me, is a beautiful thing. I can confidently say, I'm the luckiest man in the world. How did you like today's story? Hitting that subscribe button and giving a thumbs up would be a great support to our content creation. We're looking forward to your comments as well. See you in the next video.